Hello there, lovely people. It's Alex from Nintendo Life here, and, well, as you probably no doubt know, being such the famous sod that I am, I have played every single Nintendo Switch game, and as a result, my job title has changed to reflect that. So I think it's only fair that I impart some of my knowledge about some of the best games on Switch that maybe you haven't heard of. You will have heard of some of these, I mean, come on. Incidentally, this is actually a follow-up to a video that we did previously where we looked at some other of the best Switch games that you've probably never heard of, so go and watch that one after this one, or, you know, before this one. Pause it now. I mean, it's up to you, but it's not like there's going to be any spoilers in here. But anyway, that's more than enough waffling. Let's dive right into things. Let's start off with one that you're maybe more familiar with than the others. Yes, Ukulele and the Impossible Lair. This is not to be confused with the original Ukulele game that had a Kickstarter and all that sort of thing. This is a brand spanking new game that has, apart from like the themes and some of the moves, absolutely nothing to do with the original, which maybe is a good thing. It depends who you ask. I absolutely love this game. It's much closer to something like Donkey Kong Country than anything else, and to be honest, I would say, although maybe it's not quite as good as Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, you know what? It's battling for it. It really is. The level design is superb. There's great replayability, some interesting ideas with like different versions of levels depending on, you know, what's going on with the book. The books being the things that you go into. Or are they called tomes? I can't remember the terminology. And the whole thing culminates in one big bloomin' level called, appropriately, the Impossible Lair, which you can go into at any time and immediately fail because, my god, is it hard. Like, it's not even one of those things where you sort of think, oh, well, I'm sure I can do it. The whole game is building up to it, giving you multiple different hits that you can take because there are so many bloody things trying to kill you and so many opportunities to lose health, and it's ludicrous. To the point that they actually released an update which has the Impossible Lair and a slightly easier version of it because the original was so bloomin' hard, but you can still do the original stupid hard one if you like, and I recommend it. The whole game, not just the level. Next up we have Lonely Mountains Downhill, a charming little game that doesn't seem like all that much on the face of it, but it's just something about the way it controls. It is just so satisfying. You're riding a bike down a hill, it's as simple as that, and you've got to try and do various sections and try and get through, and you may sort of think, well, that sounds terribly easy, but it kind of encourages you to do things, and you just want to do things as quickly as possible, and that puts you in danger, and you've got to try and balance it out between being able to actually control what you're doing and not falling off your bike, and getting down as quickly as possible. It's a wonderful balance. It's got a few hitches here and there performance-wise, but to be honest, I can kind of overlook it. Hopefully you can as well, because believe me, if you do, this will be worth your time. You may have heard of this one if you were around right at the beginning of the Switch's life, like I'm talking like initial launch, because this was a launch title and is kind of an enhanced version of a Wii U game as well, and it's bloody brilliant, it is. It's strange, I think actually being a launch title may have damaged this game because as a result it kind of got forgotten over time. I could be entirely wrong about that. Everybody might be down in the comments going, Alex, we know this one. But if you don't, you should, and I'll tell you for why, because it's bloody good fun. If you like your fast futuristic races, kind of like F-Zero and stuff like that, this is a blisteringly good one, like painfully good fun, and it's so fast. Like, up till now you've been viewing the slowest speed, now let's have a look at the fastest speed. It's also very well balanced and actually quite difficult and really good fun and very rewarding. Unfortunately, online is a little bit dead now, which isn't really that surprising, but even so, if you wanted to get some friends involved and they all came on at the same time and you, I don't know, organized it, you could even play online, and it's good. A tiny little game that's an absolute bargain, and I bought it on a whim. I just looked at it and I thought, you know what? It's not expensive, I'll give it a whirl, and you know what? I I love love. It's a super simple platformer that's really, it's just very raw. I don't fully know how else to describe it, and it harkens back to going back to things like the Commodore 64, you know, the old 8-bit home computers, and it kind of rings true for all of that, but without all of the horrible limitations that you would get in those games. It's just a wonderfully simple platformer. There's no sort of great length and breadth of content here, but what it does have is just really nicely refined and really good fun. It really is kind of like a raw platforming challenge. Runner 3. I bought this for a song when it was on sale, and I loved Runner 2 to death. It was on the Wii U, and I had really good fun with it. It was just one of those games that I got relatively early when I got my Wii U back in the day, and I finally got round to playing Runner 3, and you know what? It's the same kind of Runner gameplay, but it looks better, it's all new. It is a classic example of a sequel, and a sequel done right. It's kind of like, maybe not the original Infinite Runner, in fact I can guarantee it probably isn't the original Infinite Runner, certainly not the third one in the series, but it's just done so well here, so right, and it is bloomin' challenging, but without being unfair. There is a degree of, you know, sort of learning and, you know, trial and error and things like that, but the punishment is never that severe, and sometimes you even want to, like, throw yourself off the edge or take damage, so you can go back because you missed a pickup or something like that. From what you've seen on the screen, yeah, that's basically the bulk of the gameplay, so if you're looking at it and you think, that looks like a tasty time, you're probably gonna have a tasty time. Oh yes, I do love a first-person puzzle experience, and this one's a doozy. You may well have seen bits of this game and not even realized it until maybe now, because you're seeing more of it. Superliminal is a game that plays on perspective and how, you know, sort of we're looking at a 2D plane on our screen in a three-dimensional space, and as a result, you can make small things big and big things small, and there's all sorts of fun puzzles to do with that. I don't want to show you too many or talk too much about it, because it's one of those games where I really think you should experience it firsthand for yourself, because it is just really good, and I think you'll have a lot of fun with it. The Tourist. Oh, can you believe this is from the same developers as Fast RMX? Because it is. This is a weirdly simple game that is also surprisingly beautiful. Like, this game, it runs at 1080p, 60 frames a second. I think it may be variable resolution. I'm not 100% sure about that, but I think maybe it is dynamic. But even so, this game looks absolutely drop-dead gorgeous. Everything loads in no time at all. It's fun to just explore, and it's just kind of like a little bit of sort of an exploration sort of bitty game. I don't quite know what genre this is. It's not really a walking simulator. If you've heard of a short hike, it's somewhat similar to that in principle, but not exactly. It's definitely got its own identity, and certainly its own art style as well, and it's something that I hugely recommend. It's just fun to go in and play, you know? It's just fun to go in and play. It's charming, and I really like it, and I think you will as well. And lastly, this is a bit of a wobbly one, because I imagine quite a few people have heard of this game. In fact, I know they have. It's bloomin' popular, but at the same time, did you bloomin' know it was on Switch? Yes, 2 Point Hospital. If you remember a little game called Theme Hospital from back in the day, this is essentially a spiritual successor to it, and it's bloomin' lovely. It expands upon the core gameplay, and it is just a wonderful management sim. You have to build a hospital, make sure patients are well tended, although it's more just kind of a case of making sure not too many of your patients die, and rinsing them for as much money as you possibly can. There's a message here. I don't think the Switch gets enough management sims, and it's started to get a few more, especially with things like Roller Coaster Tycoon 3, but this was one of the first ones that really managed to nail it as well. And the controls are just really, really well implemented. This is the kind of thing that I think many games have struggled with, you know, sort of moving from the PC to console and making the controls work, and they absolutely bloody nail it here. It's one of those games where I have just lost hours and hours and hours at weekends just playing it and trying to refine things, and it is just perfect on the Switch. It just fits so nicely, certainly in handheld as well, because whilst things are a little bit more difficult to see, it is just so lovely to be able to play such a complex game in the palm of your hand with physical controls and have it run really rather well as well. And the game's just great, and it's constantly getting updated. You'd be mad not to give this a go if you like this kind of game. And there you have it. That is just a small selection of what we feel are some of the best games on Switch that maybe you haven't heard of. Some hidden gems, if you prefer that term. We don't, because I think it's slightly overused. Are there any games that we've omitted from both videos that you think should be featured? Then let us know down there in the comments. Who knows? Maybe they'll show up in the future. And don't say Mario Odyssey, because I'm fairly certain most people have heard of that. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, then why don't you raise a paw to that subscribe button and go... You wouldn't leave me alone. You wouldn't leave me alone, would you? And be sure to check out NintendoLife.com for all sorts of lovely Nintendo-related content. Thank you again for watching. Bye-bye. Is your purring going to come up on the microphone? Mwah!